Hello and welcome back. Dear learners, as we have been discussing about the Russian language, its structure and nature. As you remember that in Russian language, in its alphabet we have 33 letters. All these 33 letters are distinguished as consonants, vowels and signs. There are 21 consonants, 10 vowels and 2 signs or symbols used in the Russian alphabet. We have talked about that how these Russian consonants and vowels are used in the language. We have seen with certain examples that these consonants and vowels are pronounced individually in a correct manner as well as when they are combined together. Introduction to the phonetics, we have talked about that how these vowels and consonants play a significant role. As in Russian, there are certain such letters which are totally new or different when they are written or pronounced. There is a fundamental rule applies called devoicing of consonants when we use them in our expressions. They are written in a different manner, but when they are pronounced, they produce different sound. That is why they are called devoicing of consonants. Dear learners, if you remember that in the previous lessons, we have talked about the usage of personal pronouns and possessive pronouns in Russian. As you already remember that there are certain rules applied when we conjugate verbs, and we always conjugate them with personal pronouns. Personal pronouns are ya, which means I, tui, which means you singular, on, ana, ano, which means he, she and it. As you already know that in Russian language we have 3 genders: masculine, feminine and the neuter. Мы, which means we, you, which means you plural, which is sufficed by the usage of вы in Russian, and we have ani, which means they. Accordingly, we conjugate verbs. Like in the previous sessions, we have been talking about how these verbs are being conjugated, it depending upon their endings. For example, we have conjugated verbs like chitach, zhich, etc. We have seen that how the conjugated forms of these verbs are used in our sentences. Such verbs like lubich, bolech, uchitsa, etc. were also conjugated so that you can understand how these verbs are used or conjugated in Russian. Since we already know that in Russian verbs have separate categories. First is according to their endings, and then simultaneously they have their own categories of perfective and imperfective verbs. If you remember that we have also discussed about that how these verbs are further classified into such verbs which are used with prefixes. When used with prefixes, it signifies completion of an action. In glagoli dvizhenia or the verbs of motion, we have used the usage of verbs like idти and khodить. We have seen the usage of yekhach and yezdить. We have also talked about with the help of certain examples that how these verbs are being used in Russian. Now we know that the ending of nouns in masculine, feminine and neuter and how they change in certain cases. In nominative case, as it is called imenительный падеж in Russian, they remain simple. In the second case, which we have been discussing, is known as prepositional case, where we use prepositions like va and na. which means in, at or on. As the most important aspect of the language is that the context plays one of the significant role. It decides that whether va or na has to be used and how it has to be translated in English. For example, va can also be used as in or at, as well as na can also be used as on or at. Летом, for example, летом я иду в стадион. Here we are using verb of motion, идти, and conjugated in the form of я. Каждым летом я иду на стадион. Accordingly, каждое утро я хожу в школу. Here we have used a preposition в, but if you can pay attention to the ending of the noun, школа changes into школу. Accordingly, in the prepositional case where verb subversions are not used, simple verbs like играть, отдыхать, читать, жить, etc. we define that what are the verbs to be used in preposition. Like дети играют в парке. Children are playing in the park. Accordingly, мой отец работает на заводе. My father is working at the factory. Моя мама учительница, она работает в университете. My mother is a professor, works in a university. So here in a context, as you now can understand that how these verbs are being used with prepositions. We also know that certain prepositions like va will always be used when it is used with certain names of places, countries and towns, like в Лондоне, в Нью-Йорке, в Дели, Москве, в Санкт-Петербурге, etc. But they will be used differently when they are used with на фабрике, на заводе, на стадионе, etc. Dear learners, in this lesson we will be talking about the usage of such prepositions with possessive pronouns. As we already know that in Russian, possessive pronouns such as мой, твой, наш, ваш, его, ее and их are used. And accordingly, we have seen that how these possessive pronouns are used. Let's take a few examples once again. Masculine gender nouns. Мой университет, в моем университете. Мой город, в моем городе. Accordingly, твой дом, в твоем доме. And now, if you pay attention to the slides, here we are going to use another word which belongs to the possessive pronouns, such as свой, which defines that something is own, mine. You can translate accordingly. For example, if I want to use свой, это его свой дом. This is his own house. В своем доме, в своей квартире, в своем городе, в своей комнате, etc. These are certain expressions which can be used when we are using possessive pronoun in prepositional case. Like we have just learned the usage of certain possessive pronouns like мой, твой, наш, ваш, их, его, его in Russian in prepositional case. As we were discussing about мой, в моем доме, твой, в твоем доме, нашем доме, вашем доме, их доме, его доме, ее доме. You can use these possessive pronouns in your own sentences. Please pay attention to this slide and discuss the usage of свой while I read it for you. Dear learners, you must remember that although его, ее, and ik, which means his, her and their are possessive pronouns. They remain unchanged while answering the question gdzie. Let us understand this with an example. Его словарь. Его словарь. Accordingly, the usage of свой, which means one's own, we'll understand with the help of such examples like свой кабинет, which means one's own room or chamber. В своем кабинете. Где он сидит? Let's understand the usage of свой in masculine gender. I'll give you a few examples of свой. Где он сидит? Where does he sit? Он сидит в своем кабинете. And accordingly, you can see that the next sentence we have here своя квартира. It can be translated as one's own flat or apartment. We can use an example to describe it. Где она живет? Она живет в своей квартире. If you pay attention to the construction of the sentence, here we have used где она живет. We have used the question где and the conjugated form of жить. The answer could be она живет в своей квартире. She lives in her own flat or apartment. Accordingly, for the third gender, that is the neuter, we have another example. Please pay attention to the slide once again. Here we have used example свое письмо, which means one's own letter. We have an example to describe it in detail so that you can understand it. В своем письме. If you pay attention to the construction of this sentence, we have used в своем письме in own's letter. В своем письме. Let's construct a sentence to understand it in a more detailed manner. Что он пишет в своем письме? Он пишет о своей жизни в своем письме. If you pay attention that we have asked что он пишет, what does he write? В своей письме. В своем письме. Sorry. Here we have also constructed a new phrase from своя жизнь, one's own life. And again, as we have been talking about the usage of о чем and о ком in Russian, which is again a part of prepositional case, like он пишет о своей жизни в своем письме. So he is writing about his own life in his letter. So accordingly, dear learners, we can construct certain other such expressions by our own with the help of our existing knowledge of Russian. Let's discuss in brief about the usage of о чем and о ком. Like we already know the usage of что, which means what, and кто, which means who. Accordingly, we have о чем, about what, and о ком, about whom. We have certain examples of verbs which are used to describe them. Like we just learned one example, о чем он пишет в своем письме. We have used an inanimate form called жизнь. Он пишет о своей жизни в своем письме. Let's take another example, a verb called думать, means to think. We can construct a sentence using the verb думать. Я думаю о своем друге. I am thinking about my own friend. Я часто думаю о своей семье. I oftenly think about my family. These are the verbs and constructions which you can use in your own style while describing the usage of achom and akom, and accordingly the adding of adjectives and nouns can also be used. Let us see a few more examples. As you know that in Russian we have demonstrative pronouns besides possessive pronouns and personal pronouns. They are called demonstrative pronouns which demonstrates certain action, like in prepositional case they are used with gijia. Please pay attention to these sentences where demonstrative pronouns are being used, like это, этот дом очень большой. Here это has been changing into according to the gender of the noun. Этот for masculine gender, это for feminine gender, это for neuter, and эти plural. Этот дом очень большой. This is house is very big. So here when we use a demonstrative pronoun этот, it indicates or demonstrates that this particular house is very big, and that is why we use этот. It changes into atom when it is used in prepositional case. Let us understand how. В этом доме живет мой друг. In this particular house my friend lives. You can also make your own sentences using these demonstrative pronouns in Russian, like этот дом очень большой. Эта комната очень красивая. Это море очень большое. Эти люди очень хорошие, etc. These are certain examples where demonstrative pronouns has been used in simple. Let's use them in prepositional case. Этот дом очень красивый. В этом красивом доме живет моя мама. Let's take an example of feminine gender now. Это очень большая квартира. Here we have used demonstrative pronoun это. В этой большой квартире живут мои родители. Let's take another example of neuter gender now. Это маленькое окно. В этом маленьком окне есть цветок. And we can also use the plural эти accordingly. Let's pay attention once again to the usage of these demonstrative pronouns in prepositional case so that you can understand them in a correct manner. Please pay attention to the intonation and pronunciation while I read them for you. Demonstrative pronouns in Russian. Этот, это, and это. Here, if you pay attention to the construction, for masculine gender, этот has been used. Это has been used for indicating the feminine gender, whereas это has been used to indicate neuter gender. Этот дом очень большой. This particular house is very big. В этом доме живет мой друг. In this particular house lives my friend. Feminine gender. Эта квартира очень маленькая. This flat is very small. В этой квартире живут папа и мама. In this flat my father and mother live. Это письмо очень интересное. This letter is very interesting. В этом письме мой друг пишет о Москве. In this letter, my friend writes about Moscow. So accordingly, if you pay attention to the usage of этот, это, это, these all demonstrative pronouns has been used with certain examples to define that how этот, это and это has been changing according to the prepositional case. As we have been discussing about the next section, the usage of achom and akom, we can also use them in our own day-to-day communication in Russian. There are certain set of verbs, as we have discussed, which can be used in prepositional case, like работать, отдыхать, завтракать, обедать, ужинать, читать, слушать, etc. These all verbs can also be used in different contexts with the help of achom and akom. For example, Masha слушает радио. Masha is listening to radio. О чем она слушает на радио? What does she is listening to on radio? Masha слушает о демократии Индии на радио. Masha is listening about the democracy of India on radio. These are certain examples of how do we use achom. Let's listen to certain examples of usage of akom in Russian. Anton думает о друге. Anton thinks about his friend. Родители Антона думают о своей жизни. Anton's parents, they think about their life. Люди часто думают о хорошем проспекте. People oftenly think about good things and prospects. Я думаю об Антоне. I am thinking about Anton. Such kind of examples can also be used and constructed with the help of existing knowledge of Russian. These are the sentences where we have oftenly used all such verbs, nouns and adjectives which are already known to you. Accordingly, you can also make your own sentences. As we already know that in Russian, we have the demonstrative pronouns which we are discussing. Now, let's discuss about the usage of что and где when demonstrative pronouns are used. Что? Где? Этот дом. В этом доме. Это квартира. В этой квартире. Это письмо. В этом письме. If we take this example here, этот дом, we can ask что это? Это дом. And we can also use the same context in prepositional case. В этом доме. Accordingly, что, we can say this particular apartment. Это квартира. В этой квартире can be used in the form of где when used in prepositional case. В этой квартире живет моя мама. Accordingly, in neuter gender, like we have just learned, in что we have это письмо. and accordingly it can be changed into gije as vetam pismie. We can also have certain other such examples of masculine gender, feminine gender and neuter gender. Etat drug, abetam druge. We can make with the help of the demonstrative pronouns in prepositional case. We can also use the feminine gender nouns like eta komnata, vetai komnate, or we can also use certain other nouns of feminine gender which ends with ya and iya. For example, auditoria, vetai auditori, and accordingly in the neuter gender like eta pismo, vetam pisme, we can use such other nouns like pole, more, etc. Vetam more, vetam pole. And if you remember that we have used certain other such nouns which are exceptions in Russian like sad, etat sad, vetam sadu, and accordingly in feminine gender or in neuter gender the rule applies. But the only thing which you need to remember is the fundamental rules which are being applied. Now in Russian, that we know that personal pronouns, possessive pronouns and demonstrative pronouns are the three categories of pronouns. The role of these three pronouns as personal pronouns are used with verb conjugations, whereas possessive pronouns used to show possession as in moi, tvoi, nash, vash, yivo, io and ik. We have also learned about another aspect of possessive pronouns as svoi, which means one's own. And at the end we have also seen the usage of demonstrative pronouns, which demonstrates a particular thing or being. We have also learned a little about the usage of achom and akom, which means about what and about whom. Accordingly, dear learners, since we have learned various aspects of Russian grammar, we will be discussing in detail more about the usage of such other aspects of prepositional case in our next lesson. I will conclude here. Thank you.